All right, guys. Welcome to the 2015 Northwest Regional Championships here in Seattle, Washington. My name is Dweha. Joining me on the mic today is going to be my good friend Len Duell.
What's up?
And we have, I think, 9 rounds of Swiss coming at you guys here in day 1 of the Regional Championships as we are ready to move on to round 1 finally. We got 2 players that are pretty good. I mean, both of them are running pretty hot this season. We got Nikolai Z versus Riley F. For those of you guys who don't know who Nikolai is the defending senior champion in the world in the world of Pokemon, right?
Yep, moved on to Masters this year, so he won't get a chance to defend that title, but maybe looking to become a Masters World Champion now.
Len, you come from the area where Nikolai plays the most.
Right.
You know how he plays and stuff like that. And Riley comes from my area, California, as both players are now actually in team preview as we see Riley on bottom with Thundurus, Kangaskhan, Sylveon, Landorus, Therian, Amoonguss, and Heatran, and Nikolai going to be running that Heatran, Jellicent, Amoonguss, Scrafty, Thundurus, Incarnate, and Gardevoir.
Yeah, so looking at this team, you can see it's bound to be a Gardevoir team for Nikolai, and Kangaskhan, the only Mega on Riley's side, so no guessing there. Both teams have the Heatran to counter Hyper Voice. Both teams have the Hyper Voice. They're actually pretty similar.
Hyper Voice is one of those moves that's really popular nowadays.
Yeah, one of the most important moves in the metagame right now. And both players are pretty well set up to do well against it, so that may cause trouble for Nikolai if he's too reliant on that Gardevoir Hyper Voice to win.
Right, and time barely expires there. I hope both players got their selections in time. I'm not exactly sure what the holdup there was, but Gardevoir, of course, Mega Gardevoir making a very big appearance now. It also gets Hyper Voice, right?
Right.
With the Pixelate once it Megas, so wouldn't be surprised to see that. Back in 2014, of course, we saw Gardevoir not going Mega because it didn't get Hyper Voice, and they opted just for a Scarf instead. As we see Riley going to go with Sylveon and Amoonguss, and Nikolai going to go with Thundurus, Incarnate, and Gardevoir.
So both Hyper Voices on the field already. Amoonguss there to support the Sylveon, Thundurus to support the Gardevoir. I would probably give the advantage here to Riley and his Amoonguss. It's going to not take too much from Hyper Voice, that's what's come out, but it has to worry about the Psychic coming in too, or the Taunt from Thundurus. Either one could cause it problems, but if neither happens, getting a Spore off could be huge.
Right, but Thundurus Incarnate, of course, a very well-known Taunt user, Swagger user, Thunder Wave user, going to try to make really Riley's team unable to move probably with its huge support move pool, and Thundurus Incarnate, it's one of those Pokemon. It can be offensive, it can be defensive.
It's really hard to know what to expect from a Thundurus just from seeing it on a team preview or seeing it led. And so I bet Riley will be tempted here to go for the Spore, even with the threat of Taunt.
We do see the Mega Gardevoir make an appearance, and of course that's pretty key. Gonna go for those Hyper Voices if it really has it, as Thundurus does go for the Taunt. Good move right there, but maybe this is an offensive Amoonguss with Sludge Bomb? I don't know.
Sludge Bomb would be huge.
Wow, that did a lot of damage to the Thundurus as it activates the Citrus Berry. Gonna heal back to about, I'd say, 60-65% as Gardevoir takes a little bit, it's at about 55% as they both do trade Hyper Voices, doing a bit of damage to Riley's side of Sylveon, of course, very especially bulky. And we do see Amoonguss get taunted and can't use the Spore, so good move right there from Nikolai to prevent the Spore.
Feeling safe to Hyper Voice instead of needing to go after Amoonguss with Psychic because of the taunt. Now we'll get to see if Amoonguss has that Sludge Bomb to fall back on, or if it will have to switch or Giga Drain.
Right, and Sylveon cannot take a Hyper Voice and an attack from Thundurus. And, normally with an Amoonguss out on the field, that's pretty big because Rage Powder can happen, draw away any sort of single target attacks, but Amoonguss got taunted. He can't do that right now, so good position right now from Nikolai, and I wouldn't be surprised to see if Riley has to try to gain back the momentum.
And I want to point out that the Sylveon Hyper Voice moved first last turn.
Right.
Gardevoir did get faster after Mega Evolving, but it's something interesting to see. You would normally expect Gardevoir to move first.
Maybe it's a slow Trick Room Gardevoir. I can see that happening because of the rest of the support Pokemon on Nikolai's side, Scrafty. Heatran can also be operating in Trick Room. As we see the Heatran switch in, Thundurus goes for the Thunderbolt into the Heatran slot, so there it is. Maybe Nikolai was also scouting for... Sludge Bomb from the...
So Sludge Bomb gets found out, goes into Protect, so now Nikolai knows to worry about it, knows to go after Amoonguss with Psychic. There'd be no point in Hyper Voicing now anyway with both Heatran and Amoonguss resisting it. Thunderbolt also did a pretty good chunk to Heatran. With the variances in how bulky Heatran can be, how offensive Thundurus can be, it's hard to know what to expect out of that, and 50% is more than I think you normally see from that Thunderbolt.
Absolutely, and, he has to be careful about how he switches that Gardevoir. Clearly might want to think about switching into Heatran if Nikolai has it, but, if Riley reads that he can go for the
if Flash
third
Cannon and
power
Sludge
set.
Bomber what's coming, Heatran's a perfect switch in. If he has it. And I would expect he does, knowing that Sylveon was there, that the Heatran was there. It's a really useful option to have.
The Gardevoir does switch out and goes out the Jellicent, so okay, that's
Another good switch
too.
in.
I mean,
it won't resist the Sludge Bomb, but we'll still take...
it does resist the Sludge Bomb.
Yes.
Heatran does go for the Earth Power, so Riley trying to get some plays out here, but unfortunately, Nikolai had a better option to switch in, as Jellicent does not mind taking that the Earth Power and the Sludge Bomb either, but does get poisoned.
Yeah, and it'll mind that poison for sure.
That's going to be leftovers. That's right, leftovers. That poison's going to slowly chip away at that Jellicent. Each turn, 12% of its HP is going to be drained away. That's pretty big for Riley, too.
Oh, and the taunt gone already.
Yeah, and that can draw away and attack this turn from the
It could protect the Heatran, yeah.
Yeah.
If Thundurus has to choose between KOing the Heatran and taunting the Amoonguss because Jellicent's slower than Heatran. But allowing Heatran to attack probably wouldn't be too terrible of a thing. Even if it gets a Heat Wave off, it's not going to KO either for those Pokemon.
Right, and Thundurus is still on the field. One of the biggest issues I see players face off against with Thundurus is that, it's just out there, and it can paralyze you, taunt you, do all sorts of support stuff, and a lot of players, they just leave that Thundurus out there, and I think Riley needs to start getting rid of that Thundurus. He wants Amoonguss out there to be able to spore, he wants Amoonguss out there to be able to taunt, or Rage Powder.
If Thundurus sits out here this whole game, Amoonguss sitting out there won't do much.
Right, Thundurus goes for the taunt again. Amoonguss not going to go for the Rage Power this turn.
And Heatran did stay in and Flamethrower, so it was expecting that taunt and took the opportunity to get the Flamethrower off.
Oh, critical hit, but not enough to knock
Still
out the Thundurus. As Jellicent goes for the Nightshade, that's going to be able to pick up the knockout. Interesting move selection right there. I don't really think I've ever seen Nightshade on Jellicent, although it is a good move. I mean,
Jellicent normally has enough special attack and options like Shadow Ball, Scald, and Water Spout that it opts for a more traditional offensive moveset, but what looks to be a more bulky Jellicent is going for Nightshade as consistent damage instead.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Will-O-Wisp recover on that Jellicent right now. Just invest in all that bulk and be able to smack things with a Nightshade for 50 damage each turn. And that's pretty good, considering that Jellicent won't be taking that much damage.
Right.
High hit points and stuff like that.
And
we do see Sylveon come out.
Yeah, and so despite being taunted, Amoonguss still has something worthwhile to stay in here because it can get the knockout on that Thundurus with Sludge Bomb. Doesn't have to, could just allow Sylveon to go for Hyper Voice and switch to get rid of the taunt. We'll see what Riley is thinking with that Amoonguss.
Interesting thing to note, Amoonguss does have Sludge Bomb. Not sure if he's either dropping Giga Drain or dropping Protect on Amoonguss. I mean, Rage Powder is just one of those moves that I think Amoonguss needs to be able to function properly in this
You assume
metagame.
Rage Powder and Spore. After that, it's up in the air. Giga Drain will also be really helpful if it comes down to that Jellicent.
And Nikolai going to show his own Amoonguss facing off against this Sylveon. Amoonguss going to retreat now. Maybe it thinks that it's not going to do too much work, as Kangaskhan is going to make an appearance. And we see Kangaskhan, that's going to be Riley's Mega of choice. I mean, that was the only option really in his team preview. Thunder Wave goes for
by Nikolai.
Thundurus goes for the Thunder Wave, and that's going to be damaging to the Kangaskhan.
But now Thundurus does go down, meaning that Amoonguss is going to be much more potent for the rest of the game.
One thing to note, even though Kangaskhan is paralyzed now, if Jellicent comes in, it cannot burn it.
Right, cannot be burnt, cannot be put to sleep. Nikolai was thinking they're expecting the Amoonguss switch and looking to get something useful with that Thunder Wave, but if it comes down to it, he may regret not having that option to Spore or Will-O-Wisp.
So now we do need to see... Kangaskhan still has the Fake Out option this turn.
Right.
Sylveon, of course, we saw it last turn move before Gardevoir, but not sure if it's going to continue to outspeed it right now. So it's going to be interesting to see how this turn plays out.
And this is where the paralysis will come in useful, because that Kangaskhan is definitely slower than Gardevoir now, where otherwise it would be threatening a outspeed and KO.
And we see Kangaskhan going to go Mega. A Fake Out onto the Mega Gardevoir, and a Hyper Voice should be able to pick up the knockout, and losing a Mega in this metagame is so huge these days.
Right.
And Gardevoir, smart, going to protect itself this turn.
No reason to risk Gardevoir there.
As Sylveon continues to Hyper Voice, going to do a little bit of damage to that Amoonguss, who, with that poison typing, resists it. Very good.
Kangaskhan outspeeds despite being paralyzed, outspeeds Amoonguss, but is fully parried. If that was, we don't know where that was targeted, but if that was going after Amoonguss, it could have been huge. Would have saved Sylveon from the sleep and gotten the crucial knockout on Amoonguss. Instead, the fully para and the prediction Thunder Wave is paying off already.
And now, Gardevoir, Kangaskhan probably has Sucker Punch. Kangaskhan can probably still Sucker Punch that Gardevoir.
But Sucker Punch with the redirection on the field is always a tricky thing, because the Rage Powder will mean that does no damage. Protects Gardevoir pretty well. even without the Sucker Punch, Gardevoir is probably not going to pick up the knockout on Kangaskhan this turn, so I would expect to see a Rage Powder just to keep Gardevoir alive for an extra turn.
Absolutely. That's right. Amoonguss can Rage Powder away the Sucker Punches.
And so yeah, because of that, because of how good Rage Powder is, even assuming no Sucker Punch, I don't think Riley can afford to try it.
And Amoonguss does go for the Rage Powder. I believe Riley still has Heatran in the back. Gardevoir going to go straight for the Hyper Voice. Not going to be able to pick up the knockout on Sylveon, I believe, barring a critical hit. Does get a critical hit on Kangaskhan,
and we do see there that Gardevoir is now faster than Sylveon after Mega Evolving. That could come in
Kangaskhan
very
again is
important.
paralyzed, so that's unfortunate again. That could have been a knockdown Amoonguss. That would have been huge.
Almost certainly would have been, which now it's another turn that it can just Rage Powder and Hyper Voice. If it had gotten the knockout on Amoonguss, it could have tried the Sucker Punch the next turn. Now our Hyper Voice outspeeds both and gets the double KO.
Right. Barring Sucker Punch critical hits, Nikolai in commanding position. I believe Riley already lost Heatran. I forgot. Riley still has Amoonguss in back.
Yeah, but Amoonguss is going to do anything against Gardevoir. I don't see how this match.
It does have Sludge Bomb.
Well, but if it gets outsped and KO'd by Psychic,
I think Amoonguss can take one Psychic and possibly. I don't know if that's going to be enough damage to knock out the Gardevoir. Unfortunately, we do see Amoonguss go for the Rage Powder again. Going to draw away any sort of Sucker Punch, any sort of priority.
Yeah, I would have liked to see Riley switch the Kangaskhan here. It was his one way to do much damage left. I think he needed to try to get Amoonguss on the field, reset Fake Out, do something to try to get an attack off with Kangaskhan. Because going down to only Amoonguss left is almost never a winning strategy.
Right, considering, in back, I believe Nikolai still has that Jellicent.
Yeah.
That's going to be big.
Yeah, if it is Giga Drain, the Amoonguss would probably beat Jellicent one-on-one, but I just don't see how it beats Gardevoir one-on-one. Even if Sludge Bomb gets the KO, Psychic will do so much that the other Amoonguss and Nightshades will get the KO.
Yeah, we do see the Psychic from Gardevoir almost pick up the knockout on Amoonguss, as Amoonguss from Nikolai's side going to go for Sludge Bomb, going to outspeed Riley's and pick up the knockout, and Nikolai is going to move on to 1-0.
Yeah, there Gardevoir was the better Hyper Voice user. Having the Psychic option was something Sylveon couldn't do. Those fully paras came in really important. It would have been a different